you have to let go of yourself. There's a story behind me saying that and the purpose of that in this video. But before we get into it, there's a quote I would love to share. And it says, "Holding on is believing in that there is only a past, and letting go is knowing that there is a future." And that was what happened to me. I was in one of those situations where I made one of those mistakes, and I allowed the person to start doing things to me that flat out disrespectful, and I lost a sense of my self-worth. I became ashamed of me. I became ashamed for me. And it's crazy because then I found out that the person who's supposed to be a family did the exact same thing that I did to them. They did the exact same thing to me, but when it was my turn, they acted like they never did that stuff, and they didn't even show me the grace that I showed them. And I understand you can't always expect people to show you the same grace that you show them, and you can't control the way that people respond to the things that you do to them. But one thing is, you have to know what serves you and what does not, and also what has the potential to serve you, because that never served me. And ever since that situation came to an end, to that relationship, there is nothing that I could look at and say, oh, this is something that I missed. Not one thing, not support, nothing. So that was a situation that wasn't serving me, but still, I allowed myself to lose myself of self-worth and all of my boundaries so much. And I want to share this, but well, I think I'm already being vulnerable enough, but I don't want to share anything that is not relevant, really. I'm really thankful. If you watch this, honestly, I'm thankful for your time. If you can get a like, thank you. It's like dying to self, but a healthy dying to self, one which involves discernment, which allows you to distinguish between the necessary surrender of selfish desires and the damaging suppression of one's authentic self. So you have to know what serves you and what does not serve you. And when you know what serves you or what has the potential to serve you, then you also know what fighting for, because what's serving you or has the potential to serve you will never become something that begins to take away your self-worth. But what I'm talking about is more along the lines of detachment from addictions to who you are, detachment from the past, detachment from the way things has always been, those things that prevent change. So detachment from the things that keeps you from changing. Uncertainty is reality, and reality is uncertainty. And where there is no change is where reality is being burnt. And that's precisely why I'm making this video, because I was reflecting on certain life events. And by letting go, we're talking about accepting the uncontrollable, detachment from the past, embracing change, and finding peace and moving forward. And I know one of the reasons why I struggle with letting go is fear of the unknown, trying to control the uncontrollable. And as you accept the uncontrollable, you realize that you cannot control everything, including other people's actions or outcomes of situations. As you start letting go of yourself, you start accepting that, man, some things are beyond your influence, and you start choosing to focus on the things that you can control, and that's your own thought, your action, and your reaction, for instance. And that's one thing that I want to share, something that happened with me. The more you have interaction with people, even with family, friends, relationship, the more you relate to people, the more you have relationship with people, eventually you get to a point where you mess up, you make mistake. Eventually you will hurt somebody in a way where you see, now they would have a grudge against you, they will have something against you. One thing that my friend told me that I want to tell you, apologies enough, because the last thing that you want to do and the last thing that I want you to do is to get in the mind space of, oh, I mess up. Now, because you're trying to make things right, you start allowing things that you never would have allowed. You see, you start doing things to get that person's approval, and you start losing your self-worth. You start allowing that person to, cross your boundaries and do things because they know that you mess up. I don't want you to get to that place, because that's not a place for anybody to be. Apology is enough. You don't have to sell your self-worth or dignity because of the mistake that you have made. So as you're letting go of yourself, it's important to detach from the past. So you cannot dwell on past mistakes, on regrets, on negative experiences. It's about learning from the past, but not allowing it to define you or limit you in the present. Because as long as you do not allow it to define you or limit you in the present, only then will this allow for personal growth and the ability to embrace and walk into new opportunities. So if you find yourself in that situation where you're trying, because you're trying to right your wrongs or get the respect of someone, but you're starting to lose your self-worth and you're starting to allow things that you would never allow otherwise, you have to know it's okay for you to let go and don't let the guilt or don't let yourself go to a place where you think it's okay for you to accept these things because of what you've done. Because how can you grow? How can you actually become better if you keep living constantly in the same thing that you're trying to fix? The same thing that you're trying to outrun is the same thing that the person is using over and over and over again. Just basically make you relive the same thing over and over again. See, if you're in that place, you have to know you can't outgrow, and there is no way you can let go. There is no way you can actually grow from it, and it doesn't matter how much you try. And that's because you can't outgrow something that you're still living in, that you keep living in, and the person keeps bringing up over and over and over again. There are things that I'm here to overcome, and I am working through them, and I'm finding different ways to, walk through it. But there are things in the past that I have done that I wish I did differently, or I had the maturity to do differently. And there are parts of me that seeks out change. But I have to allow myself to grow and know that happy or sad, light is only a reference to dark. But I still appreciate what it does to me. But it's important to acknowledge that something is wrong. It's important to acknowledge that something needs to change. That's the first part, because most people never get to this part. But if you can get to that part where you acknowledge that there is something wrong and things need to change, you're already halfway. You're already halfway there. The other half is the application. It's figuring out the application. Okay, yes, I've acknowledged these things. I know that certain things need to change, but how do I apply it? Okay, and that's one thing that I find myself as well struggling with. When I acknowledge certain things in my life and I see certain things that are wrong, the next step is figuring out just the application into my life in such a way that allow me enough space to change and grow from it. Certain times it's easier, certain times it's straightforward, certain times it's not straightforward. But that's why it's important to spend time with self. That's why it's important to know yourself. And I don't think we actually understand how much distracted we are with phone and social media. We have unintentionally conditioned ourselves not to be present, or not to even be capable of being present with self. We have distracted ourselves into oblivion. And the moment you decide to sit down and just focus on yourself, or tune all the noises away, then you realize how difficult it is to sit in silence, because then you realize that your mind has a mind of its own. But that's because of the constant consumption of information and entertainment. Because I tried this the other day, I decided to just sit down 30 minutes, and 30 minutes alone, honestly, that was too much to just sit down 30 minutes without doing. I just felt like I had to do something. And I know I'm going on a tangent, but it all comes into, you see, the design of this world. Like, this world is literally the devil's playground. Quick dopamine and how easy it is for us to be entertained. It doesn't just affect us on our day-to-day. So you can't be still. You can't even focus on God. You can't focus on prayer. How can you hear from God? How can you be still? You can't quiet the soul because you have trained your soul unintentionally. And as you're detaching from the past, it's important, to not be ashamed of being yourself, and letting yourself shine through, and also realizing that, the mistakes that you've made, whatever it might be, that does not mean that even you deserve to be stuck under the label, of your mistake. Like I said earlier, if you can come to a place of acknowledgement, you're already halfway there, because not many people come to a place of acknowledgement. And don't let your mistakes stop you from, going after things that are good. Okay, you have to put yourself out there for yourself. Put yourself out there to yourself, to show yourself that I can come back from this. I can do better. I can be better. I'm able to do these things. So you have to be mindful of yourself. And as you start embracing change, one thing that you might notice is how you lose people. And I know this can be painful. See, once you start losing people, it's a sign that there is a change happening within. Losing people around us, that is an external change that really points to the internal change, because before the change happened externally, it always happened internally. And I know this is a very painful one. At least for me, this is the hardest one, really. And this involves accepting that things evolve, that things change, and that holding on to the past can hinder progress. And this is very hard, because sometimes I just want things to be the way they are. I don't want things to change. This embracing change is really one of my the hardest thing that I've had to deal with, and that I'm actually still walking through, because this involves letting go of relationships, letting go of jobs, and even the old version of yourself, especially if the old version of yourself is something that you created on purpose, something you created strategically. It can be very hard to let go of, because that's the version of yourself that has gotten you to where you are. And sometimes we can create versions of ourselves because of hurt, trauma, and certain things that we go through in life. So that's you, that's who you have become. So it can be difficult to let that go, because you might think if you let go of your old self, then the reason why you created that version in the first place might happen. Sometimes you created an old version for protection, or to protect your heart, to protect you from whatever it might be, or to help you to be successful. And now you might think, well, if I let go of this old self, that means I have to, maybe then I have to be weak. I can understand how this can be very challenging and difficult for us to do, even when we know it's something that we should do. Truth be told, I'm still working on stuff. Sometimes I still tend to hold on to things, and one of the biggest things that I'm working on is trying to be present with self, trying to be more present with myself and know myself. And the more that I work on it, the more I realize how much things I ignore about myself, and certain things, and things that I actually do not even know about myself, really. And that's why I'm actually able to share this and, I guess, articulate certain things in here. I know sometimes we might want closure to things, but most times the action is really the closure, and that really should be all the closure that we need. Anything outside of that is just, us trying to hold on. It's all about releasing emotional weight of the past, and creating space for new experiences, growth, and happiness. Letting yourself go, being there for yourself, treating yourself like a friend, letting parts of yourself change. I'm really thankful. If you watch this, honestly, I'm thankful for your time. Really appreciate you. If I can get a like, thank you guys.
Love that you have a connection with, and they're immediately separated from you. Like, the only way you
Yeah, like when I saw that Straw movie.